Naruto, the Fox Emperor. Chapter 1. Tsunade Senju, the Godame Hokage, was staring blankly at the view from her office. There were several papers on her desk to sign, but frankly watching the falling rain was much more interesting, despite having seen it every day for the past 8 years. Ever since that damn day she lost a loved one once again. Lightning momentarily illuminated the village she ruled, even though it was now clear that no one within the council respected her power. Those damned power-hungry idiots acted against her and behind her back at every opportunity, and it was their own fault that the village was now in such a critical situation. For 8 years now the sun seemed to have disappeared from their lives, and that constant storm was just one of the reasons why Konoha was no longer the strongest village. The constant rain had ruined all crops across the land of fire, and simple things like wheat and rice were now costing 10 times as much as they had 8 years ago. All this because we have lost our son, whispered Tsunade, remembering a young blonde-haired shinobi who wore only orange and who wouldn't stop calling her granny. The young boy in her mind was Naruto Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi and the one who had managed to convince her to return to that damn village, who was banished from Konoha 8 years ago after successfully completing a mission. Yes, completed, not failed. One of Naruto's teammates, Sasuke Uchiha, had the brilliant idea of betraying the village and leaving to join Orochimaru so that he could gain the power to kill his brother and avenge his clan. Obviously, Tsunade had no intention of letting him go, as Orochimaru was far too dangerous, and it was obvious that he wanted the Uchiha so he could take over Sasuke's body and the Sharingan. So she had assembled a team to be able to stop the fugitive and bring him back to Konoha. Unfortunately, due to the attempted invasion of Suna and Oto, the village was not in good shape and many ninjas had been assigned to continuous patrols or reconstruction work. So the roster from which Tsunade could choose the members of the team was very limited, and in the end he had opted for a newly promoted Chunin and 4 genin, including Naruto. Fast forward a day, and the team had returned with 2 genin on the verge of death. The mission had been successfully completed. Sasuke had been defeated by Naruto himself, while Orochimaru's bodyguards had been killed by Konoha's genin who had been helped by Gaara, Kankuro, and Temari, sent as reinforcements by Suna. Then, everything had fallen apart. Tsunade had been busy for hours trying to save the life of Choji Akimichi and Niji Hyuga, so the council had decided to act without first consulting her and had sent a letter to the Fire Daimyo warning him of what happened, specifying how Naruto had lost control of the nine-tailed fox, how he nearly killed the last Uchiha, and how there was an organization known as Akatsuki that was hunting the 9 Biju, making Konoha a target as 2 famous missing nin had already snuck into the village. Thanks to those idiots, the daimyo had become terrified of having Naruto in his land and had ordered him to be banished from Konoha, the land of fire, and all their allies. Naruto was to leave the village within 24 hours and the land of fire within 3 days, and if he were found within its boundaries, he would be killed. Tsunade remembered perfectly the moment when, after having summoned him before the whole council of Konoha, she had had to banish the young boy whom she now saw as a son or a grandson. His eyes devoid of the liveliness and life that had always distinguished him still haunted her today in her dreams. Naruto didn't say anything, he just gave her his headband along with the necklace he had won in their bet. Tsunade wanted to refuse it, but he turned quickly and walked away, ignoring the smug grins of the council members on the civilian and shinobi side. Only the various clan heads had said nothing, knowing that the boy was not at fault. The last thing she saw of him was the long, cold glare he threw at the room behind him before vanishing forever. As if he cursed us, and in a way he succeeded. Tsunade shook her head, remembering the small victory she had had when all their allies had broken off trade deals with them. The shocked and scandalized faces of the members of the council were absolutely hilarious to her. Too bad that now she found herself at the head of a ship destined to sink slowly, especially with Oto, Iwa, and Kumo ready to strike a fight now that Konoha was so weak. Tsunade-sama, said woman, looked towards the door, where Shizune had just entered. The requested team has arrived. Send them in. Unwillingly, Tsunade sat behind her desk with the hands closed in front of her face, and after a few seconds, a group of ninjas entered the room. The most recognizable of all was undoubtedly her former teammate, Jiraiya, who would perform the function of team leader for the important mission that Tsunade was about to assign them. Joining him were Team 7 and Team 9, also known as Team Kakashi and Team Guy, although the only difference was that Naruto's place in Team 7 was taken by a pale boy named Sai at the insistence of Danzo Shimura. And speaking of Danzo, Tsunade made no secret of her irritation at seeing him enter her office with Hamura and Koharu. "I don't remember calling you two," she hissed at them, but while the last two scowled at her, Danzo merely stopped near her desk, looking at the other shinobi. "This mission is of vital importance to the village. It is normal that we are also present. If you hadn't done your own thing as usual, there would be no need for this mission either. The least you could do is stay locked up in a hospice while I try to resolve the situation you have thrown us into," replied Tsunade, without pulling her punches before focusing on her shinobi. "Everyone, I'll be straightforward. Konoha has been in dire straits for the past 8 years. With the loss of our allies and the various trade deals, the economic situation is dire and we are now receiving fewer and fewer clients. To try to resolve the situation, you have been instructed to go west beyond the great mountain range that separates the land of the earth and the land of the wind from the rest of the world. There you will find the Alvarez Empire, where an important tournament is held with 50 chests full of gold up for grabs. Your job is to win the tournament. You will also need to get an audience with the Emperor and try to make him an ally of Konoha," said Danzo, earning a glare from Tsunade for interrupting her. "You have to make sure that he is interested in us and our village, and that allying with us is the best solution for both of us." Jiraiya scratched the back of his head. "Don't get me wrong, I want Konoha to go back to what it used to be, but how are we supposed to make him think that? We don't exactly have much to offer." Koharu handed him a scroll. "Here is everything you need for the mission. All that we are ready to offer is marked. Try in every way to convince him, even offer him to come here to visit so that he can see the village." Tsunade could not believe the stupidity of these people. Were they really hoping to persuade an emperor to ally with them after showing him a village on the edge of the abyss perpetually battered by rain? Someone now thought that Konoha had become a second name. She then glared at the three elders. "What are you plotting? There is practically nothing we can offer to an emperor. Instead, we have something that he does not have, and it is the Sharingan," said Danzo with his usual calm. "We do not know if the emperor is young or not, or if he has sisters or daughters, but if he does, we will propose an arranged marriage with Sasuke Uchiha. In that way, Konoha will be linked to the royal family and the emperor will not be able to deny us an alliance." However, what he did not say was that he had every intention of having the emperor and his family assassinated. First, Danzo would use his special Sharingan to make the emperor appoint Sasuke as his only heir, and thus Konoha would gain complete control of the whole empire and its resources. "I have the impression that you are not telling the whole truth," said Tsunade while narrowing her eyes. "It doesn't matter whether you believe my words or not. This mission already has the authorization of the council and the daimyo, so it cannot be cancelled." The one called the Darkness of the Shinobi looked at the assembled team. "You have your orders, now go." "Not Jiraiya, I have to talk to him in private," said Tsunade, sending a glare toward the elders who walked away, while the Toad Sannin he ordered the others to get ready and be found at the gate in an hour. Once everyone was out, the white-haired man turned to the Hokage. "What did you want to talk about, Tsunade?" "Did you find out anything?" the Hokage asked, knowing full well that Jiraiya would guess who she was referring to. Jiraiya frowned at her. "Are you still hoping to know something about Naruto?" "Tsunade, 8 years have passed and no one has seen him. None of my spies have found anything. It is now obvious that the Akatsuki took him the moment he left the village." "You can't be sure." She slammed a fist on her desk. "It was you who told me that the Akatsuki hasn't done anything since he disappeared, so they can't have taken him. He is out there. Even if he were out there, what would that change? The daimyo has not yet revoked the order for his exile, and if he were to return, what would change? What if he loses control over the fox again? I love this village, but I don't really want to end up in the Shinigami's belly for playing with its seal," shouted Jiraiya with Tsunade glaring daggers at him. Minato would be ashamed knowing what you have become. Now go away. You have to hope your mission is successful, or there won't be a second chance. Jiraiya looked at her angrily but did as requested and left the office through the window, leaving Tsunade alone. The Hokage could only sigh before looking again at the village and the rain that went on relentlessly. I really hope you are okay, Naruto, and that you are in a better place than this hell. Having prepared themselves properly, the various members of the team had found themselves in a bar with their former classmates from the academy for the last time before leaving. Their Jonin sensei were who knows where, but they knew that they would soon find them at the village gate. So you're leaving for the Empire, huh? Must be nice to leave this place once in a while, said Kiba with Akamaru sitting at his side, although I don't understand how you can hope to ally the Empire with Konoha. Suffice it to say right away that they can be affiliated to the Uchiha clan, and they will immediately agree to ally with us. I bet the Empress would also prefer an elite like me rather than the Emperor, proclaimed Sasuke with such arrogance as to make people vomit. Although he had tried to leave the village, no one had pointed to him as a criminal, and indeed they had defended him, proclaiming that Orochimaru's cursed seal had been the cause of his behavior. Over the past 8 years, Sasuke had become a Jonin, having Kakashi as a private teacher but also receiving training from other shinobi on the council payroll, making him one of the most promising and strongest ninja in the whole village. Whereupon many civilians were starting to say he should be Hokage right away. Troublesome Uchiha, has it not occurred to you that perhaps the Emperor and the Empress are not interested in an alliance with us? Asked Shikamaru with a calm voice, looking at the clan head of the Uchiha clan other than Jutsus. A few weapons and maybe arranged marriages, we have nothing to offer. Out of the corner of his eye he saw Hinata wince and could not help but feel pity for the young Hyuga, since, according to his father, she was among the possible candidates for an arranged marriage with the Emperor himself. In case he accepted mistresses or concubines, along with Hana Inuzuka and Ino Yamanaka, who was not at all happy to be used as a bargaining chip. An elite Uchiha like me is worth so much more than that, grinned Sasuke. Also I understand that you have not even been considered for a wedding. Shikamaru narrowed his eyes before looking away, troublesome. I just hope everything goes well. The last few years have been tough for the family business, groaned Tenen since her parents ran a shop of weapons and equipment for ninjas, but given the economic crisis and the scarcity of missions, no one was going to buy any more, and therefore sales had plummeted. Like her, many others were feeling the weight of that crisis. The Akimichi clan could no longer rely on large quantities of food, and therefore all its members had lost weight, thus losing the ability to effectively use many of their jutsu. The Hyuga clan had had to donate much of its wealth, like all the other clans, to fill the village coffers and therefore could no longer afford elegant kimonos or luxury items. The various shinobi of the village were forced to work hard to be able to bring food to their families, and now the available missions were increasingly difficult and dangerous. An alliance with the Alvarez Empire was their only salvation. It's all Naruto's fault, snapped Sakura, earning a glare from Hinata. If that fool had applied himself to the academy instead of thinking about pranks all the time, he wouldn't have had to use his demonic powers, and by now we would still have our allies and enough food for everyone. Sakura, you were there too when Tsunade-sama explained that Naruto had been sabotaged throughout his academic years. Even Iruka-sensei confirmed this, so there was no way for Naruto to stop Sasuke without using the fox's power, said Shino with his face hidden like always behind his jacket and sunglasses. After Naruto's exile, everyone had learned of his status as a Jinchuriki, and while many were convinced that he was actually the Kyuubi in human form, Shino's analytical mind had led him to understand that Naruto was simply a boy who had been stripped of the possibility of living a normal life, and therefore had nothing against him. It's still his fault, hissed Sakura before paying for her drink and leave the bar, shortly followed by the rest of the squad assigned to the mission in the Empire. Hey Shika, do you think the mission will be successful? Asked Ino, hoping in the meantime not to be given in marriage to the Emperor, or even worse to some obese and old noble. Shikamaru groaned while looking outside. I don't know. On one hand they could win the tournament and ease the situation here in Konoha, but on the other hand Sasuke could say something offensive or even act his own way, and that would only make the situation worse. This is too troublesome. Do you think the Empire could declare war on us? Asked Choji while eating the only loaf of bread available in their meal. I sincerely hope not, but if they do, Konoha is done for. Right everyone, get ready, said Jiraiya looking at his squad. We are about to enter the land of spring and sadly the ninja of Konoha are not welcome, so we will enter using a hench. Here are your fake passports in case of checks. Also from here on we will go at a regular pace to avoid suspicion. Jiraiya-sama? Why did we come here north? I thought we were going west through the mountains, asked Tenten after performing her hench. Because this is the fastest way to get to the Empire. 2 years ago it appears that the Land of Spring and the Land of Waves entered into a trade deal with the Alvarez Empire, and this is an additional reason to ally with them, explained the Sannin while walking toward the closest city. From the Land of Waves you can reach the Empire by sea, while from here a long railway departs that takes you directly to the capital, or so they say. An hour later, all 7 ninja were seated inside a carriage, and the train had left a few minutes ago, leaving behind the verdant lands of the Land of Spring. After a few minutes the onboard attendants, complete with an escort of samurai, came by to serve them snacks and drinks, then leaving them alone. I wonder why there were samurai on board with them, asked Sakura while sipping her coffee. Earlier, I heard some civilians talk about it, said Guy with a serious face. It seems that in the months following the inauguration of the railway, some bandits and missing Nin attacked the train, so now there are armed escorts all along the way. Still, it's pretty strange, noted Niji looking around. The train is made up of 10 carriages, and yet only 20 people got on board. I thought there were a lot more people interested in going to the Empire. Most likely because people still fear for a possible war. After all, the Empire was born only 3 years ago and only recently seems to have settled in with regard to territorial disputes and other problems. The inhabitants of here prefer to enjoy the benefits of their alliance by staying at home rather than going to a foreign land, explained Jiraiya with the others nodding at his words. Tenten ate some cookies before asking the Sannin, by the way, Jiraiya-sama, what can you tell us about the Empire? As you just said, it has only been around for 3 years, but there has never been much news to Konoha. It doesn't surprise me as even my spies have a hard time discovering anything new. All I know is that until 3 years ago the territories that make up the Empire were constantly at war with each other, and the situation had been going on for many years, perhaps since before the beginning of the Warring States period. For so long? Asked Rockley with shocked eyes. So those lands had been at war for at least 300 years? Pretty much, nodded Jiraiya. The difference between them and us is that on this side it was mainly shinobi and samurai who waged war on behalf of the feudal lords. But on the other side of the mountains apparently there are other sentient races besides humans, and there are also demons and other evil creatures that roam the lands. It is very likely that due to their differences they have fought for years and years out of pure hatred or something. Then, like a bolt from the blue, the wars came to an end, and all thanks to the man who would later become emperor. Little is known about him, but apparently he is a great warrior and has the support of the entire empire. As the others wondered what kind of person this emperor was, Sasuke snorted. It does not mean anything. If all those lands were unable to prevail against the others, it means that they were all weak. If we had tried to invade them years ago, I would have been able to conquer those lands alone. Niji rolled his eyes. I doubt it, Uchiha. With your arrogance, you would have simply found a united front ready to kill you. As if you could do better, Hyuga. I still wonder why you are here, since your skills are so much lower than mine, shot back Sasuke with his Sharingan shining in his eyes. Enough, both of you, said Kakashi looking at the two. We have a mission to accomplish, and we cannot fight among ourselves. Sasuke, don't activate your Sharingan. If there were any ninjas nearby, they could sense your chakra and understand who we are. The two Jonin glared at each other for a few more seconds before letting go, causing Kakashi to sigh. And I was worried about winning the tournament. Thought Jiraiya with a sigh. With such a team it will be a miracle to get to the Empire alive, let alone win a tournament. After a long 5-hour train ride, the 7 shinobi finally arrived at the Empire's capital, Visterion. Immediately, they could see how the architecture was of the highest level, and the sun shining on the city gave the whole an almost surreal air. Without wasting time, Jiraiya and the others got off the train to be able to start their mission. However, after a few steps, they were immediately surrounded by men in silver armor with covered faces. Jiraiya of the Sannin. State your reason for being here and the reason you and the other Konoha ninjas came to the Empire in disguise, asked the only man without a helmet and with a blue cloak over his shoulders, with light purple eyes, the same color as his short, spiky hair. I think there is a mistake here, my good sir, said Jiraiya, doing his best with a "I am not dangerous" tone of voice. You see, my family and I are visiting from the land of spring. I don't know any Jiraiya. The man in front of them narrowed his eyes, placing a hand over his sword, lying in the face of a holy knight, as well as a knight of the Round Table, is a serious affront. Now sweating bullets under his henge, Jiraiya looked around, noticing how the other men in armor had put their hands on their weapons as well, but just as he was about to try again to deceive those guards, an all-too-familiar voice reached their ears. That is enough. Lord Lancelot. Looking to the left, they saw a man dressed in black shinobi clothes approaching them with a calm step and, although only his eyes were visible, Jiraiya, Kakashi, and Sasuke immediately recognized that person. Itachi. Stopping a few paces from them, Itachi lowered the mask that covered his face. Hello, little brother. We haven't seen each other in 8 years, have we? What are you doing here, Itachi? Growled Sasuke, dispelling his hints, having now realized that their cover was blown. It seems obvious to me. I'm preventing you from making a big mistake and ending up in the dungeons of the capital. I doubt you could hold out over there for more than 24 hours, replied Itachi with a calm voice, looking at the man with purple hair. Lord Lancelot, please forgive them, they are not aware of the customs of the Empire. Lancelot watched him in silence for a few seconds before nodding. I'll leave them to you, but the Emperor and the Empresses will want to know of their presence. Itachi nodded at his words. It is my intention to guide them to the palace within the hour. If you are headed there, please notify them of our arrival. It shall be done, and with those parting words, Lancelot left with his knights behind him. Left alone with Itachi, the various ninja of Konoha cancelled their henge as the people around them continued to walk without paying attention to any of them. Among them, Sasuke was the closest to attack Itachi, but Kakashi put a hand on his shoulder to stop him. Why are you here, Itachi? Is the Akatsuki trying to destroy the Empire from within? Asked Jiraiya with serious eyes, but the older Uchiha shook his head. I am no longer a member of the Akatsuki. Now I am one of the shinobi in the service of the Emperor, and now I go by the name of Itachi Hayabusa. What? Shouted Sasuke with his Sharingan spinning wildly. Not only have you slaughtered our clan, but now you have also given up your clan name. Have you no honor? Honor is a wasted word for a shinobi like me. Now I am part of a clan more aimed at order and balance rather than war. Despite my sins, they accepted me as one of their own, and I intend to repay their kindness to the end, explained Itachi before motioning them to follow him. Come with me. It is clear that you want to talk to the Emperor in addition to wanting to participate in the tournament that will take place tomorrow. Why are you helping us? Asked Kakashi, keeping Sasuke from attacking his older brother. As long as I remember, you weren't on good terms with Konoha. Those days are in the past as long as you behave here, replied Itachi without looking at them, and as for helping you, let's just say I'm doing it in honor of the old days. As mentioned before, if I hadn't been there, you would have all ended up in the dungeon by now. MPF, as if some man in armor was enough to stop an elite like. Have you become so weak that you are afraid of even such garbage, Itachi? Asked Sasuke with a cold glare, but his older brother merely shook his head. Foolish little brother. That man was Lancelot, one of the strongest knights in the Empire. His mastery with the sword is such that even all 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist would seem like novices by comparison. While Sasuke scoffed, clearly not convinced, the others widened their eyes in surprise upon hearing the comparison used by Itachi. If you want advice, avoid picking a fight with anyone. This is the capital and is full of strong warriors loyal to the Emperor. Many of them would make the three Sannin look like genin. Are you sure you're not trying to scare us now? I can accept swordsmen as strong as legends, but even multiple warriors stronger than me, Tsunade or Orochimaru. In my opinion, you're exaggerating. Feel free to think of it however you want. I won't save you again should you get in trouble. Without further ado, the 7 shinobi of Konoha followed Itachi along the streets of the capital, stopping from time to time to admire the landscape, observe the various shops or buy books on the history of the empire and a tour guide of the capital. One thing they immediately noticed was the large amount of people and how happy and carefree they were all. There were also, in addition to humans, men-beasts, men and women with particular pointy ears, those who looked like real demons and even large animals that could speak. Although the latter did not appear to be the result of a summoning like Jiraiya's toads or Kakashi's dogs. "This is incredible," whispered Rock Lee with his teammates nodding. "Sure it is. Did you see those weapons? I want them so badly," whined Tenten while pointing to a shop belonging to a blacksmith where one of those pointy-eared men was talking to a white-haired man with cat eyes and 2 swords on his back. Their tour lasted for about 40 minutes before Itachi led them to the entrance to the huge castle in the center of the city. Nodding to the various guards at the gate, Itachi led them inside before stopping when he saw 2 men dressed in white arrive, the first with blue eyes and hair, while the second had green eyes and black hair. Grimmjow Okiura. Itachi bowed his head. "I didn't know you were back at the palace." "TCH, we're leaving now. Here everything is boring and the situation in the north seems to have moved a little," growled Grimmjow without looking at the others, while Okiura was actually staring at them with his haunting green eyes. "Konoha shinobi?" Itachi nodded. "They are here to see the emperor." Arching an eyebrow, Grimmjow looked at them one by one and finally grinned with amusement. "What are stray dogs like them doing here? Weak people should stay away from the empire." "What did you say?" snapped Sasuke before falling to his knees with the others when a strong aura of oppression crushed their bodies, while Itachi and Okiura remained indifferent to this. "I said weak people like you should stay away from the empire," grinned Grimmjow standing in front of them. "Do you happen to have such weak ears that you can't hear me?" When neither of them answered, the aura of oppression seemed to fade, and without further ado, Okiura and Grimmjow left, leaving behind a group of shocked shinobi. What was that?" asked Sakura with a pale face. "I told you not to pick fights with anyone," said Itachi with a calm voice. Looking at them, those were 2 Espada, a group of elite warriors in the service of the Third Empress, just as Lancelot and the Knights of the Round Table are in the service of the First Empress. "How many empresses are there exactly?" asked Jiraiya, with his mind ready to record everything in order to write his next masterpiece of the Ika Paradise. 4, each of them with their own group of special warriors as bodyguards, explained Itachi while walking inside the palace. "The 4th Empress is currently in the west to face some wild demons, while the other 3 are expected to be in town." "An empress is fighting?" asked Tenten with the esteem for that woman, which was already increasing dramatically. The former Uchiha nodded. "Both the emperor and the empresses are warriors, and when the situation calls for it they always go to the front lines to fight. It is also for this reason that they are respected and loved throughout the empire. If so, it might be easier to get them to sign an alliance with us. If the empire still has enemies, Konoha could help them in exchange for their resources," thought Jiraiya, thinking of all possible options to successfully complete the mission. Finally, after a few minutes spent wandering along interminable corridors, Itachi stopped in front of a huge golden double door, where waiting for them they found what looked like a butler. Even if his golden eyes with black scara and red glow were somewhat surreal, and Jiraiya, like the others, had a bad feeling about that guy. "Ah, Itachi, welcome back," said the butler with a smile on his face. "I see you brought our guests safe and sound, although I swear I sensed Grimmjow's aura just now." Grimmjow and one of the guests had an argument, but now it's all settled, Diablo, explained Itachi, without mentioning who had had the quarrel with the Espada. "Can they already enter?" Diablo nodded without losing his smile. "But of course, the 3 empresses are already in the throne room and the emperor will arrive shortly." Itachi thanked him before turning to the others. "My work here is done. Now I have to go back to my patrol area. Remember what I told you. Now wait a moment, Itachi. I got stronger and stronger to finally be able to kill you. Sasuke growled, drawing his sword. You don't really believe I'll let you go without a fight, do you? The former Uchiha shook his head, clearly disappointed with his younger brother. Now you don't have time for these things. Fighting inside the palace is strictly forbidden, but if you really care that much about fighting me, 2 days from now, after the tournament, I will come to you and we will fight satisfied. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Who tells me I can trust you? I'm a member of the Hayabusa clan now. If I give you my word, I am bound to keep my promise. Sasuke, accept his word. It is clear by now that he is not going anywhere, said Jiraiya, forcing the Uchiha to put away his weapon, and without another word, Itachi walked away, leaving them with Diablo, who was still smiling. Now before you enter, I remind you that you will be in the presence of an emperor and 3 empresses. Once inside, you will kneel where the red velvet carpet begins and will not stand up until the hearing is over. You can raise your head to speak, but you can speak only when required. Breaking these few simple rules will win you a night in the dungeons of the castle. When Jiraiya nodded, after throwing a warning glance at Sasuke, Diablo turned to the doors that began to open by themselves and after a few seconds made his entrance, followed by the ninjas. Announcing the arrival of the Konoha shinobi, following Jiraiya of the Sannin, Diablo said in a voice that echoed through the huge throne room, before stepping aside and standing by the doors that closed behind them. Walking very calmly, the Toad Sannin scanned the entire room, admiring the white marble columns, the huge colored windows placed above, and the various banners hanging from the ceiling, and then concentrating solely on the 5 thrones made of black marble with golden veins, placed at the top of a short staircase, side by side, at the end of the room. The leftmost throne was currently empty, and the crest railing had been carved to look like a lion's head. The throne to the left of the first had the crest railing depicting some warrior god, and, currently sitting on the throne, there was a young woman with long black hair with green eyes, wearing a long blue dress that left different parts of the body uncovered, combined with long white gloves, white boots reaching up to her middle calves, and a feather boa of white fur. The rightmost throne had a crest railing depicting a sharp-toothed shark, and sitting on that throne was a woman of rare exotic beauty, with olive skin, aqua-green eyes, thick eyelashes, and short golden blonde hair, kept messy with 3 braided locks. Her incredible body was covered in wide white pants and a white jacket with black details, protected in places by white armor that looked like it was made of bones. The throne to her right, on the other hand, had the head of a dragon as a crest railing, and a blonde woman, with green eyes like emeralds, was seated on that throne, wearing a perfect combination of silver armor and a blue dress, complete with a red cape outlined by white fur. All in all, those were among the most beautiful women Jiraiya had ever seen, and he was sure their bust was on the level of Tsunade's. Finally, the central throne was currently empty, yet the Toad Sage felt a shiver run down his spine when he saw the crest railing, as it was shaped to depict the head of a fox with sharp teeth and long ears. Jiraiya-sama, whispered Kakashi, having also noticed the detail of the central throne. Hush. I saw it too, replied Jiraiya before kneeling in the required spot and keeping the head bowed like other shinobi. Luckily, Sasuke hadn't done anything stupid yet, even though Jiraiya was sure he saw jealousy in Sakura's eyes. The last thing he needed them was for her to start thinking of the empresses as rivals in love. Jiraiya of the Sannin, to what do we owe your presence in our empire? Asked the empress with the red cloak. Multiple reasons, my empresses. First of all, we are interested in participating in the tournament that will take place tomorrow, as long as there are no rules that prevent us from registering, of course, said Jiraiya after having raised his head to look at her. The second reason for our presence in your lands is to propose to you and the Emperor a possible alliance with Konoha and the Land of Fire. Also, if I may ask. He waited for a few seconds, and when he saw that none of them seemed bothered by his request, he went on, could we know your names? So that we can refer to you correctly, as calling you all empresses could cause confusion for us, unaccustomed to your royal presence. Moments of silence greeted his words before the black-haired woman chuckled in amusement. I don't see why not. I am the second Empress Minerva. Closing her eyes for a moment, the woman with olive skin then opened them, staring right at Jiraiya with far too coldness in them. I am the third Empress, Haribel. Finally, the last Empress took a breath, and I am the first Empress, Artoria. Remember our names well, as everyone in the Empire knows them and who they are associated with, and to answer your question, no, there are no rules prohibiting you from participating in the tournament. Yes, we will not fail to remind ourselves. Forgive us for our ignorance. Jiraiya bowed his head, thanking them, but before he could ask them about the possible alliance, the doors behind them opened again and Diablo's voice echoed throughout the hall, announcing the arrival of the Emperor of the Alvarez Empire. Slow and heavy footsteps were heard between the walls of the throne room, as the most powerful man in the whole empire advanced close to them, and after a few seconds, when he was to their right, the various shinobi could not resist the temptation and looked slightly in his direction to see his face. What they saw made them turn pale with fear or turn red with madness, for the man who could save Konoha, the one who had the empire at his command, was none other than Naruto Uzumaki. The young blonde man, dressed in magnificent silver armor, slowed down for a moment and looked them straight in the eye, showing them a grin that seemed to make them squirm even more. It lasted only a moment before Naruto continued to approach the thrones, before stopping in front of Haribel and kissing her hand. You are as beautiful as ever, my darling. Haribel smiled at him. Your words are more than welcome, my beloved. He then moved towards Minerva and kissed her hand too. Glad to see you again, my love. I missed you so much. And I missed you too, my emperor. I can't wait to make up for lost time, replied Minerva with a warm smile on her face. Naruto then approached Artoria and kissed her hand as well. My queen, red looks great on you. It's Empress now, my love. Artoria giggled at his words. Apologies, sometimes I still live in the past. Naruto chuckled before slowly sitting down on his throne and watching the shinobi sent from the place he once called home. All of them were looking at him with eyes filled with shock, fear, and anger, but he didn't pay much attention and focused his attention on Jiraiya. Welcome, my dear godfather. Hearing his words, Jiraiya paled even more. It's been a while, hasn't it? Those were harmless words, but Jiraiya was sure that with those few and simple words, Naruto had already sealed the fate of Konoha. A fate full of death.